So, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق. Read in the name of your Lord who created. The second verse, خلق الإنسان من علق, created man from a علق, from a clinging substance. Min alaq is a word that I want to, insha'Allah ta'ala, discuss briefly today, insha'Allah ta'ala. Alaq, clinging substance, we call it sperm, call it different things, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the word alaq. The first question that we asked, or we should be asking, is why alaq? This is the second verse that's been revealed to mankind, and Allah is talking about what He created, and He's not talking about how He created the largest planet or the solar system or mountains or anything like this. He's just talking about a fluid, which is fascinating. هذا صحيح? Like, it's like, why? لماذا? Why is Allah talking about a clinging substance, an alaq? So there's a lot of biology that's useful here that can help us. So this is why the Qur'an is useful if you do science as well, because if you're a scientist or you study science, biology, or you should go back to biology, and maybe you can look into what the sperm is all about, you'll find that there are clues and hints into why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this clinging substance. We know that the composition of the sperm itself, or the fluid itself, 5 to 10% of it is only sperm cell, actual sperm cells in of itself. The rest is fluid from the prostate and other things, which I won't go into because this isn't a science lesson, but it's worth being aware of it. And sperm cells, genetically speaking, are actually foreign to a man's own body. They're actually foreign to your body. They shouldn't be there, if you like. But they carry, and the reason for this is they carry half of your DNA. Half of your DNA are in the sperm cell. And so the body should reject them, but it doesn't. This is from the nizam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's protected by Allah's creation, testes, and this blood testes barrier protects the alien element that's in your body. It's fascinating. I bet you didn't know this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this nizam inside your body. We also know that to produce semen, it requires quite a lot of energy. A lot of energy is required to produce semen, and a lot of nutrients are needed. The reason I mention this, by the way, and I don't want to go off on a personal crusade against what's called ultra-processed foods. When you go home today or tomorrow, spend some time reading up on UPFs, ultra-processed foods. This is in all our foods almost, without exception. This is what they do. What they do is they take food now, and they take out all the nutrients, and they basically try to mimic the food. So, for example, Nutella. My daughter loves Nutella. When you pick up a tub of Nutella, you would think that it's got nuts in it. It's got no nuts in it at all. It's all artificial, and it's designed to keep you hooked onto it. And it's got no nutrients in it at all. It's actually very harmful for you. And there are books that I can recommend, thanks to my wife, about UPS. So UPS is quite scary. It's a modern thing, and the companies use it to make you addicted to their food. It's what makes food taste nice. When you have cereal, you think cereal is healthy for you, but actually it's not. If you do the research, it's not good for you actually. But they make it taste really nice. As soon as it hits your tongue, your saliva, it salivates you. So why is all of this so important? One of the reasons that it affects your semen, the production of your semen, it actually affects this. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in every food, in every product that He's given to us, it has natural goodness in it. But the moment you take all of that out and you put artificial ingredients in, it takes out all the natural goodness out of it. And the second reason is that I get a lot of people who come to me with mental health issues. Allah cure everyone. And sometimes what we do is when they come to mental health issues is that we think it's only about jadoo or sihr or it's nazar and these sort of things. That's one approach. But sometimes it can also be to do with physical reasons, biological reasons, wrong type of food, the sort of things that you're eating also affects you. Because in our understanding, what you eat, what you take in, affects your ruh as well. Because the ruh is connected to your body. Does that make sense? So we don't separate jismani and ruhani, we put them together. So some people will say, oh, it's a ruhani ilaj, a ruhani cure that you require. But it doesn't mean that it could also be something jismani. There might be something physically wrong with you in terms of the sort of food that you're eating. So you are what you eat. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Qur'an, Kulu min at-tayyibat. Right? So He doesn't give you jawaz just to eat. But He says, min at-tayyibat. It's in the Qur'an. Fascinating. So Allah doesn't say eat halal. He actually says specifically here, eat good food, eat wholesome food. I don't want to give a lecture on this, but there's a lot of research that's coming out. The sad thing is we actually don't know about the effects of all of this. Now it's getting into our systems, in our water as well now. Plastics, what's left over, because it enters the system, it actually enters our body. So sadly, we live in a world where this is now going to be the reality, but we should redeem as much as we can of it. And it affects lots of other things in our body as well. So we need to be aware of this, especially in our culture, because we all like to eat junk food, takeaway food, fizzy drinks, which is like the worst thing. It's like poison. Literally, it's poison. Like you're putting poison into your body. If you knew what was in these things, wallahi, if you knew what was in these things, you wouldn't eat these things. You wouldn't touch them. If you knew the haqiqah of what they put in these things. So, in any case, sperm is mentioned here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in other places in the Qur'an uses the word nutfa. So here the word ʿalaq is used, which is a clinging fluid. Elsewhere, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the word nutfa. Nutf basically means semen. So there's a farq between semen and this clinging fluid. And I'm going to talk about a difference and why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about a clinging fluid and He doesn't call it semen. Does that make sense? There's a reason. We have to ask ourselves, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use the word ʿalaq and not nutfa, which appears elsewhere in the Qur'an. So I won't give you a history lesson about this word in particular, but this word ʿalaq is very, very fascinating. Allah uses the word ʿalaq here, which is a clinging substance. It's a clinging substance or a clot. It's something that clings. It clings onto something. And of course, it appears here in Surah Al-ʿalaq. In Arabic, ʿalaq comes from the word ayn, lam, qaf, ʿalaq. And it basically means something that attaches itself onto something. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't use the word nutfa, which means sperm, but He's used the word ʿalaq, which is telling you something very, very interesting. It can also mean blood clot, or another interesting linguistic meaning is like a leech thing. What does a leech do? It clings onto you, right? If you've ever had experience with a leech, it clings onto you and it attaches itself to you. So it means something that sticks, right? And you most of you married people here, you know what happens when you don't clean it off straight away. It sticks and you need to scrub it off. So this is what it means here in the Quran. And it also, if you think about a leech, how does a leech survive? It needs that blood. It needs that blood to survive. So the ulama also say to us that Allah chose this word intentionally because it's showing to us that this clinging substance on its own can't exist, and it to survive it needs to cling on to something, which basically means it's weakness, it's dependence. Look how deep this meaning is right in the second verse of the Quran. Something that is utterly in need. It can't exist on its own. Does that make sense? That clinging substance, it needs to enter a womb. Then it can do something. Otherwise, it dies straight away. That's what biology also tells us. So there's a deep ma'na here in the Quran. It's telling you that you don't exist. You only exist because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you wujud. Subhanallah. This is what it means. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins with this very, very graphic, interesting meaning here about the leech and this idea of clinging for survival. Literally, that's what we do for our entire life. We don't just do it from the moment we enter the womb, but we are literally clinging on for survival. We can't survive without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sustaining us. This goes back to the first verse. Iqra bismi rabbik, the one who sustains you. Remember I asked you the question, why not Allah, why Rabb? Because He sustains you. See, one is to create something and then just leave it. But you cannot just be created. You are created and you need to be sustained. You have like a double dependence. Because if Allah doesn't sustain you, you die. You become non-existent. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so powerful that not only does He only create you, but He also sustains you, which is unique. And only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do that for us. اقرأ بسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق. I'll talk more about the word alaq in more detail because there's also a question which I'm going to leave you with to think about tonight. Who were the people who heard this verse? The Quraysh, the people of Mecca. They were polytheists, they were mushrikeen, they were Christians there, of course, they were Jews there. But why doesn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say something else? Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about this fluid, this clinging fluid? I want to ask you this question. Like when they heard this, why do you think He appealed to them in this way? Why didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say to them instead that I am Allah, I am the one, right? I exist. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala address the first people to hear this and to humanity at large by talking about this clinging fluid in particular? I want you to think about that because I'm going to inshallah explore the answer with you tomorrow. Inshallah, hopefully that's been useful. Subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Jazakallah.